What happens when you give a media personality and a sex therapist a podcast? You get Spill the Tea, a bold, unfiltered space where no topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the messy, hilarious, and heartbreaking realities of life. Will Nash and Maria Orrego serve up real talk with expert insight, hot takes, and a whole lot of tea.
I feel like the holidays always bring up so many things to talk about.
There's always so much to talk about, or so little that you want to talk about, especially when it comes to your family, right? Because I mean, we love them, we do, and we like to get together with them or most of them, but you know, they can cause some stress, some drama, some anxiety, right? That's what happens. And I think we're technically, are we in Easter weekend? Like, is this it now?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's funny because it always changes every year, so you never actually know when Easter is coming, and then it just
No.
appears out of nowhere. I think we all really enjoyed, the one thing I think we all enjoyed about COVID was the fact that we didn't actually have to go home for the holidays at all. And there was just this freedom of everyone staying home, and there's no obligation, and no one can make you feel guilty for not wanting to be there. And you can't ask too many questions on a Zoom call. So it was quick and easy.
And you know what? It's funny. It's funny that you talk about COVID as much as we, still try to not talk about it. But it's like, I do remember, because of the timing of when COVID started, March 2020, and it was like, this was the first big holiday. And then I think, you had your sort of ups and downs with everything. And then I think there was another Easter too. Just the way the holidays were really highlighted to not get together with people. But now you have the luxury, or air quotes luxury, of seeing everybody, getting your cheeks squeezed by Aunt Bertha, getting grandma ask you why you are not pregnant, Uncle Bob wanting to know why you don't have a partner, you've been single for a long time, and all of those fun things that come with family get-togethers on long weekends.
Yes. Have you ever had the instance of a family member at a family holiday trying to matchmake with you?
Like at the event, or just like later on down the line? Hey, we hadn't seen each other in a while, but I have this person.
Both. I've actually had clients disclose to me that they have shown up to like a family dinner, holiday or not, and like their aunt, uncle, whoever has like brought someone. It's kind of like a weird surprise blind date, because it's like, oh, so and so is here for school or for business, and we like know them because it's our neighbor's cousin's daughter or whatever. And so I brought them to Easter dinner, and I thought you guys could meet. Like, oh, if I've heard it so many times. Has that never happened to you?
It's never happened to me. And I think that if someone was to show up at my family holiday function with someone, I'm like, okay, before I even spend like 30 seconds talking to this guy, he better not be some cousin twice removed, because I'm not into that. This is a family function. Like, let's just make sure this person is out of the family genes.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. We don't want any like White Lotus incest things happening to you. Okay. Yes.
No,
so it's never happened.
Has that happened to you, Maria?
Has it happened to me? No. Oh my gosh. No.
Okay.
Personally, no. I've never had anyone try to matchmake at a family function.
Mm-hmm.
I have been like, if I was single at the time, I think we've all kind of gotten this from like a grandmother or an aunt or something. It's like, someone so cute as you shouldn't be single. And there's times where you just want to say, no, I'm single because I want to be, not like this is a choice. This is a full choice. I'd rather be single right now than dating anyone that's out there. I think a lot of us have that pressure, and then you don't want to go to family functions because people are going to say inappropriate things, or they're going to ask you like, are you pregnant? Are you getting married? Are you, I don't know.
No, you're right. And I think the thing is you're actually reminding me of a instance where it wasn't at a family holiday function. It was even worse. I was stuck in the car with one of my relatives going somewhere, and because I had been, out as gay for a few years at this point, and he had never seen me bring anyone to a family function, hadn't really heard me talk about anyone special in my life. He just knew that, okay, Will's saying he is gay, right? And at one point he said to me, so like, are you just like, do you not want to have a boyfriend? Or are you just like, because some people just, are focused on their career and they don't necessarily want to be in a relationship. And so I'm like stuck in this car on the highway. And I'm like, okay, if I could just jump onto the Don Valley Parkway, that would be more enjoyable than this conversation, right?
Oh my
Um, but I think that kind of a conversation, I bring it up here, could easily happen at a family get together. And it's not just relationships, right? What
God.
also people will corner you about at these family functions, and I've had points in my life where I worked in media for a very long time, right? Media is known for making kind of crazy job changes. And uh, I remember being out of work at Christmas once, if not twice. And you've just had that experience of losing a job, like 3 weeks before you're showing up at this Christmas get together. So what's the plan? What are you going to do? And it's like, well, I'm just trying to get through Christmas and then like, figure it out. So it's like it's job stuff, it's career stuff, relationship stuff. Maybe it's just something personal that you don't want to expose to that person who you literally see once or twice a year.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And you touched on something so important there. The fact that family feels like they have the right to know what's actually happening in your life by just doing that, right? You see them once a year at the same function. They think that they're entitled to the entire story of your life and what you're going through. I find it very like cringy and just anxiety provoking because we all go through it. We have to go home for the holidays. We don't have to. I'm going to say that. Like, we don't have to go home for the holidays. We're choosing to go home for the holidays. And we are placed in these situations where family members are asking questions that are none of their business. And it's awkward instead of actually asking questions that might lead to a really beautiful conversation and us actually getting to know each other, right?
We've talked about what we either have or have not been asked at a holiday function. Has there ever been a point where there has been something that you have been asked at a family get together on anything at all, and you felt like you either A, didn't want to disclose it, or B, didn't know how to answer it?
Oh, for sure. Yes. I think one thought that comes to mind, specifically, let's say for moms, is the question that people ask when you're pregnant of like, are you going to breastfeed or are you going to do a natural birth or stuff like that, with like the most uncomfortable questions that then become debates within the entire family, and then everyone's telling their birth story or everyone's telling what happened to them during their pregnancy, and it just becomes the most uncomfortable conversation ever. I think that's one a lot of women can relate to. But then
Yeah.
there's also the question of like, are you dating someone? What happened to so and so? They were fantastic. And it's like, you don't know what was happening behind closed doors. Please don't tell me my ex-boyfriend is fantastic when you have no idea what he's like.
Oh my gosh. Well, the other thing is too, it's like I'm of the belief as a man, and really I think no matter who, that you just never ask someone about expecting or being pregnant. Like I just would never ask somebody that, because I feel like that's very, I mean, it's not appropriate is the best way to describe it. I just think that in this day and age, because what if somebody was expecting, but then maybe they hadn't hit that point where they were telling people, or maybe they weren't expecting and maybe they were just going through some body changes, right? And
Yeah.
you've seen that happen to people. I know I've seen that happen to people, and it's like, no, I'm not pregnant. I've just been kind of going through it a little bit, right? Um,
Isn't that funny though that like there's like specific topics that we can all name that when we go to a family function are just like dumpster fires. So when people ask you like your weight, I don't know why, but
Why would
families
you even
decide.
why would you ask someone their weight? Like, what does that have to do with the ham that we're gonna have for Easter dinner, right?
Well,
Like,
it's the commenting, right? The commenting on the weight of like, oh, you've put on some pounds, or oh, you look really thin. Is everything okay? Like those comments that come to mind, right? The ones that you're just like Aunt Bertha is asking, and you're like, why is this a topic? But then pregnancy is another one, relationship status is another one. And then I think everyone this Easter, unfortunately, is going to be faced with the question of who are you voting for, which is also going to like erupt so many conflicts in everybody and so much anxiety. Um, I
yeah, it's hard too though, right? Because I think that like I've had these conversations with family members, not necessarily at a holiday dinner, but it could be coming up this weekend. But it's like, I remember one time explaining the fact that I wasn't siding with a certain individual who shall not be named. And I was expressing that, I had an issue with a lot of their stances on, issues within the LGBTQ plus community, right?
Mhm.
And I mentioned something about trans people that had been said, and it was like, well, you're not trans, you're gay, and I'm like, but like, I'm a part of that community, and shouldn't we all just be a part of like the human race and want, it's like, and I don't care, in terms of, um, if that person deemed them good for the country, right? It's like I shouldn't have to explain that. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think politics, you and I, we really try and steer clear of politics on this podcast. I know that's been intentional because it's just so heavy everywhere else right now. But I think that, is it a bad idea if maybe you're planning dinner to say, hey, you know what? Everything's pretty much open topic. Looking forward to getting together with you. Let's not get into politics, because let's be honest, I think that most families have jarring views and they're not always going to be on the same page.
I agree. I actually love that idea too of like setting those boundaries before you show up, especially if you are traveling in or having to like make a trek and staying over perhaps at family homes. I would definitely say like you are more than welcome to say, hey, with the world the way that it is right now, I really think that we should stay away from politics. If politics do come up, I am going to excuse myself. No one take offense to it, but I'm not going to engage in this. But that can also be said about all the topics. Like you're allowed to say what you're willing and not willing to talk about. Like if I know that like I've had clients going through, for example, a divorce, they do send an email and say to family, like, hey, everyone's aware that I'm going through a divorce. Yes, we're okay. I do not want to talk about it this weekend. Please respect my privacy. And you can say that. You can set that boundary when you're going to Easter, Christmas, whatever holiday you might be like coming up to, that you don't want to talk about these things because they're sensitive.
It's so funny. I think that when it comes to the holidays, and I'm someone that I love celebrating the holidays, I genuinely like to get together with my family and my friends during that time of year. For the most part, I'll say that. And it's like, but sometimes it's almost like the anticipation of it is more exciting than when you're actually there.
Yeah.
And then you're there and someone says something that maybe, kind of strikes you the wrong way, or you don't think is appropriate, or maybe you're saying it in front of your kids, or maybe, maybe an elder relative isn't the most socially conscious human being in the world. And it's not just people who are older, by the way.
Mhm.
It can really ruin a weekend. And then you're like, man, I have like 3 days off this weekend and I was looking forward to getting out of town. And yeah, so it's really hard to know how to cope with it, but also it can make you feel ways, especially if you're talking about this stuff about relationships, right? Where it's like you might even be feeling a little insecure about, not that you have to be insecure about it, but maybe there's insecurities about not being in a relationship if everyone else there is, right?
But
And
there's
then
also the insecurity of bringing your partner into that dynamic. Like, how many of us are like thinking, okay, we have to go to family dinner this weekend. Aunt Bertha is going to be there. I know what her politics are. I know what her stance on my relationships are. I know what she's going to say to me. And then you start getting that anxiety, like, of, oh my gosh, my new partner has no idea that my family is crazy. And now I have to introduce them to this family, right? It's a big stressor.
Yeah, it kind of takes away any sort of enjoyment, I think, that you get out of the holidays when you're bringing somebody new to visit your family, because I feel like maybe even like 90, for example, say this was to happen, like 90% of your family are great, but there's just that 10% that you're like, you know what? If I gotta go to the bathroom, I don't want to leave him with that family relative, because those 4 minutes, I feel like he's gonna be read the riot act, right? And it's like, I'm not trying to play bodyguard, but at the same point, it's like I don't know what it is. It's like I get it. Like, I think, look at what we're doing with this podcast, right? We're obviously nosy people. We obviously, like a little bit of tea, but it's at the same point, it's a bit of entitlement on behalf of your family members to feel like they
It
can just,
is.
sit them down and Barbara Walters your new boyfriend.
Yeah, I've had couples actually where we safety plan around holidays of like we safety plan, we check in with each other, we take 5 minutes to maybe go outside and just get some air, or we like have like a code word that we text each other if we're stuck in like a conversation that we don't want to be in. And I've also had people say like if you see me with Aunt Bertha, it is your responsibility to get me out of that conversation. Like, and again, that goes back to that idea of communicating as a couple, right? If you are in a long-term relationship or even a short-term relationship and you're bringing a partner to the holidays, have a safety plan of how you're going to handle it so that everyone's on the same page on who's going where and when, so that we all know that we're taken care of in that situation. But if you're single and going to the holidays and you don't want to put up with the questions of why you're still single, coming up with like a boilerplate kind of
Yeah,
phrase
response.
is also incredibly helpful.
Yeah, that's a great tip too, especially if you're hearing this right now and you're on the way to the family get together. Hopefully, Aunt Bertha's come down with a bit of a flu, so you don't have to put up with her interrogation. But here's another big question.
Hmm.
Um, do you think that it's ever okay to skip the family holiday get together, just if you want to give yourself a bit of a break, because maybe you are going through a divorce, or maybe, a breakup, or maybe you just lost your job and you're feeling a little depressed about it, like, or should you feel that you should always go and just kind of handle the situation once you get there?
No, I think you should always give yourself permission to listen to those feelings. I think you should measure them though. Like I think
Mhm.
if you're going through like a depressive episode and you're skipping your family function because of the depression, but it would actually serve you well to go to the family function, then no, you need to figure out how to use like your coping, your strategies in order to
Mhm.
like go so that you can feel better, right? But if your family causes you like unhealthy feelings and it causes you to be more drained and it hurts your mental health and you really need some downtime, then you're allowed to say no. I don't subscribe to the idea that family is um like the end all and be all. I think we all come from different types of families. Some are good, some are bad, some are healthy, some are unhealthy. And a lot of us need to kind of sift through the things that our families may have done to us or that are still doing to us. And we need to set appropriate boundaries. So I would never suggest that you put yourself in a situation that hurts you or that makes you feel uncomfortable. You're allowed to say no. And if your family is guilting you to be there anyways, well, that's also a flag that they don't know who you are or they don't understand that you need this for yourself. They should be encouraging that time for yourself if you really need it.
That's great advice. And the other thing is that as you're talking about your family and the concept of them being the be all and end all of things, I think something else I have to mention too is going back to the LGBTQ plus community is sometimes, it could be your chosen family that you're going to spend the holidays with, right? Maybe if you're not accepted, or, one of you in your relationship is not accepted by somebody in your family and that makes you feel uncomfortable. I know lots of people who will decide to bypass the traditional family get together with your blood relatives and instead have a chosen family Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving meal. And I mean, I'm in a good position where my family is accepting of who I am, but I know there are others who are not, or people I know who are in relationships who haven't felt comfortable or safe coming out to their family. So
Mhm.
sometimes you just have to kind of think of those things. And I think most of us have had experiences where your family guilts you into doing things that you don't want to do. I mean, if they're hearing this right now, sorry, but it has happened. I mean, I feel like, but what family has it not happened, right? You
Okay, I
have
have
to
a
do
question
this
for
for you.
you. Do you think that if you're in a relationship, do you think you have to go to family holidays together? Like, do you think that you have to both
Mm.
show up to both family holidays, or is it okay to divide and conquer and just deal with your own family and just kind of do the holidays separately? Like, what do you think if you're in a dating relationship, maybe you don't have kids, but
Uh-huh.
you're just kind of like starting out or dating, like maybe not just casually, but you're in a relationship where you're okay with not having to spend time with the other family. What would you say? What's your thought on that? Is that a red flag or
No, I definitely don't think that it's a quote unquote like a red flag. I think that you have to do what makes you and your partner comfortable. And, maybe it's a distance thing where someone's family is 6 hours away from the other person's family, or even
Mhm.
further than that. And sometimes it's like, okay, you know what? Wish that you were coming with me this weekend, but I get it. You haven't seen your family in a while. Well, listen, I haven't seen my family in a while either. So I think that for this weekend, we're going to have to do this. Or maybe like, on the Friday, you split up, but then you meet up on the Saturday for the next night somewhere else, right? I
Mhm.
don't think that's a red flag. I think that if someone actually said that to me where it was like, well, your family's great, Will, but I want to see mine too, I think that you have to come up with some sort of a compromise what works for you. Now, I think there are instances where it could possibly be a red flag if there's like drama or things that have happened at past get-togethers that
Mhm.
that's why you're doing it. But um if you're doing it for the sake of just convenience or that
Mhm.
comfort, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It would now eventually, I think that you would get to a point in the relationship, I know I would, because some people are like, I'm very close with my family, right?
Mhm.
I'm about an hour and a half away from my immediate family, so I'm the only one who is in a distance. So if someone was telling me that I wasn't able to go to their sorry, I wasn't able to attend my family get together because I had to go to his all the time, like, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, you will be. I actually kind of had that thought too. Like, imagine if you're in a polyamorous relationship and you have multiple homes to go to over the
That's like
holidays. That just
that's where
feels
I
like
oh my god, that
right.
sounds like a nightmare. It's
Okay,
like,
yeah, that would be it. But I do want to share though. I have a friend of mine who's in an open relationship, and she hosted. What was it? Oh, I'm gonna what why can't I remember? It was Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving. She hosted Thanksgiving with her husband, her boyfriend, and all three extended families. And they have children. She hosted the entire thing and it went off amazing. She said it was the best day. They like because everyone was aware of the situation,
yeah.
everyone knows what's going on. There was open communication, there were boundaries set and everyone showed up and she had her husband, her boyfriend's family, her husband's family, her own family, and everyone was just having Thanksgiving together. And it was just this beautiful thing that they did so well, again, with so much communication that, yeah, it was gorgeous. But again, thinking about like, she saved herself from having to go to three different family Thanksgivings by just hosting one herself. But what a beautiful thing to do.
It's a beautiful thing to do, but I mean, honestly, it sounds like it could have been a recipe for freaking disaster.
Yes, it could have been, but it wasn't, which is great.
Yeah, and it's like I'm like, wow, like all those people under one roof. I mean, I can't even imagine what some of those conversations were like. But, I mean, obviously it went over very well because she shared that with you. And that's, I mean, if that can work, if that scenario can work, it almost makes you think what scenario cannot, especially if you are in a monogamous relationship or you're dating somebody long term or you have kids or whatnot, right?
But this is why I always say that heteronormative relationships that are monogamous sometimes struggle the most because we weren't taught to communicate properly. Whereas if you're in the polyamorous world, the communication is taught to us, right? We have to. There is no option. You have to communicate. And so there's so much to say for that community and that lifestyle because they're forced to have conversations. Whereas heteronormative relationships, unfortunately, that are monogamous,
Hmm.
we we're not forcing anyone to communicate. It's just like this is the cookie cutter. You have to stick in it, and then hopefully you're happy. So again, we could learn so much in our own relationships and our own family dynamics if we all actually communicated with each other instead of interrogated each other or had these like weird insecurities during these family holidays.
And it's funny too, because I mean, I don't know myself, but I would assume that the polyamorous community is constantly scrutinized and constantly judged just based on what people's impression of that is. I mean, I think we can thank reality TV and TLC shows for that.
Yes.
That probably hasn't helped in a lot of ways. Maybe it's helped in others. So I think it's like people think that they know what goes on in everyone else's relationship anyway, right? Whether it's hetero, whether it's, bisexual, gay, polyamorous, monogamous. I think that people like to make those assumptions, but that's a really great example of something that can work. And again, I feel like, the word of the day, as it is every episode, is communication, right? I think that if we had better communication as a society, I think that all your relationships, your friendships, your romantic relationships, your family relationships would probably all be in better shape than they are.
I fully agree. Okay, but with all those assumptions, I think it's time for us to make some
Yeah.
assumptions about our spill the
I know. It's like, you know what? We're the perfect example of, so don't necessarily, do what we're doing. Just do what we say.
We're Aunt Bertha right now. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
we
see it.
are Aunt Bertha, and we're asking, why you haven't had a boyfriend in 3 years. Okay. So, as always, we are spilling the tea. Thank you so much for this question that you sent in. Hey, Will and Maria, I have been dating someone for a few months. My family is pressuring me to bring him to Easter dinner. I don't like the fact about the pressure. That's me saying that. I don't feel like we're at that level yet, but they're making me feel guilty and saying it's rude to not invite him. I want to keep it casual, but I also don't want to create drama with my family. What should I do? So, dating someone for a few months, family is already pressuring him to bring this person to Easter dinner. They say they're not there yet, but they're making him feel guilty about it. And calling him rude for not bringing this new, because it's only a few months. Like in my mind, if I was dating, okay, so where are we now? We're April. If I was dating somebody like tomorrow, and then I guess is Christmas the next big one?
Thanksgiving?
I don't know. That's debatable. I don't know. I don't know that'd be. I mean, depends on the relationship, right? But what's your gut reaction to this, Maria? Like, there's a lot of words that stick out to me, like pressure, guilt.
Yeah, I think that that's a lot of like negativity. Like, I think encouraging you to bring someone to Easter or whatever dinner, 100% that's lovely. Pressuring you and making you feel guilty or saying that you're rude for not doing something, so many red flags there for me in terms of like how your family is communicating with you.
Yeah.
I think what I would grab onto is if you want to keep it casual, then keep it casual. It's your relationship. It is in this beautiful, delicious box of your own, and your family doesn't get a say in that. And you're allowed to say, I'm not bringing them. You can also, like, if you're scared about like being rude, you can tell your partner, the person that you're dating, and say, hey, I know Easter's coming up. I don't think we're there yet. I think you should go do your thing. I'll do mine. I'm not ready to introduce you to my family. That's okay too. Communicate that to the person you're dating. I don't think it's rude not to invite someone to a family function when you're just dating for a few months.
No, I would agree. And I think that I don't like the pressure aspect of it. And I don't like the fact that his family is, I'm going to assume, maybe I'm wrong, that his parents are saying, that you're being rude if you don't bring this person. Like, somehow he has managed to attend these family functions for however many years before then with either a partner or with no one, and survived, and this person is still there. I
Yeah.
just think that the fact that, like, I think his family's just being fucking nosy. Like, I'll just say it, right? I think that they're being nosy, and they want to check out the partner, and they want to assess it. It sounds like this person has kept this relationship pretty quiet. Also, I think this relationship is only few. I read that as three. It's in the development stages. So maybe we're figuring out if this is something that's going to be long term, because I don't know about you, but if I'm in a relationship with someone, I want to make sure I have that security as much as you can in that early stage. And I want to make sure that this is going to be something long term for me to introduce him. I'm speaking as myself to my family. I'm not just going to bring, the hookup from Friday night to my family get together, right?
Yeah, but if
Uh,
you want to, you're allowed to do that too, right? I think the idea of like this person doesn't want to create drama. They also don't want to be rude to their partner. I think that I would kind of question like we're doing a lot for other people and we're not doing what we want to be doing, right? And so obviously there's a limit there of like not hurting other humans, but if you're saying I want to keep this casual, but I don't want to be rude to my partner and I don't want to put like drama in my family, well, you're putting other people's needs before yours, and it seems like your need is to keep this casual, and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't owe anyone anything, not at least not at this point, not from what I'm reading. These are the assumptions we're making. We are making the assumptions.
yeah.
You owe nothing to anyone. I would say just tell your family to not be nosy and tell your partner that maybe next time.
Can you imagine that you're dating someone and this is a conversation that you have to have with them, saying, listen, like, or if you just maybe like they never had that conversation with their partner, right? About this particular holiday coming up. But maybe this is just like if this is me and I'm having this scenario, I'm for sure telling the person that I'm dating, because I'd be like, listen, like, it's going well. We've kind of kept this to ourselves, but I would think I would tell the person even if I wasn't planning on bringing them, because I would want them to know this. And like, imagine being forced into going, like, you're not going to enjoy that. Like, there's just nothing, there's nothing that's going to make you feel good about that.
No, there isn't. And there's so many holiday horror stories that we hear, right? The idea of like being asked the wrong question, bringing someone that's supposed to just be a friend, and then everyone's asking when you're supposed to get married to this person. I think that if your gut is telling you that you're feeling pressured and made guilty, you're allowed to say no and set those boundaries. And at the end of the day, it's also your holiday. It is also something that you are doing for yourself, right? You have the time off work, you have the freedom to do whatever you want during that holiday. You're allowed to make those decisions for yourself.
You know what? I think I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, that's the reality of it. Is I know I've said that before, but it's very true. Like, I can't think of a better way to sum that up. And I think that you don't need to show up to someone. Maybe this is my last sip. You don't need to show up with someone at your holiday get together for the sake of an Instagram profile picture, right? Or, something that you want to throw on your story because all of your other friends are in relationships. Um, I get it. I've been there. During the holidays, if you're single, it can feel lonely and it can feel a little bit isolating when you see all the other couples around the dinner table, or especially at Christmas. I feel like especially at Christmas. But I don't know. I don't think it's worth sort of, hiring a paid actor to show up to the family get together on Easter, Christmas, whatever holiday it is.
That was a great movie, the one with Deborah Messing. Do you remember that? She hired an escort to be the guest at a wedding. Anyways, I digress. My last if you don't know the movie, look it up. My last sip would be people are going to assume anyways. People are going to judge you regardless because they have nothing else better to do and it's their own insecurities. So do whatever you want. Set your boundaries, communicate the things that you need and want at a family function. And if that means that you need to set a boundary of not showing up and letting your family know that, do that. If it means bringing your partner or not bringing your partner, listen to what your body is telling you, because most of the time it's trying to communicate something to you that is healthy and that also might need to be worked on in therapy.
And also something very important, but also kind of unrelated. Wait until after Easter to go to the store to buy the chocolate, because that's when it's going to be discounted. And especially
100%.
if you're single, you're probably going to need it following putting up with your damn family throughout the whole long weekend. So
All the
just
mini eggs.
remember that.
Oh my God, I love that. Discounted chocolate. That is our last tip for today. Discounted chocolate the day after the holidays.
Don't forget about it, baby. Thank you so much for listening and for watching the Spill the Tea podcast. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on an episode. You get notified. And, be a gem and leave us a review. 5 stars only. And that's the tea.
That's it for this episode of Spill the Tea. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us for more candid conversations. Got a burning question or topic you want us to cover? Slide into our DMs. We're always here to spill the tea. Follow us on socials at the Spill the Tea Pod, at Will Nash on Air, and at Sex Off the Pedestal.